Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're going to make one regular coffee station and one upgraded coffee station. Let's get into it. I got the idea for this coffee serving station from Shara over at Woodshop Diaries. This was one of her scrap wood projects over the summer. I'll leave a link to her page down below so you can check it out. So we're going to start with Shara's version for our first coffee station, and then we're going to step it up a bit to make a fancy version for all you sophisticated people out there. You know who you are.
Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?
For this one, I'm using some scrap wood that I picked up from work, but the original plans call for a standard 1x6 board and a 2x2 board and 1/2 inch dowel. Because my 2x2 was used as a stake in the ground, I cleaned up the sides on the table saw and cut it to 12 inches long on the miter saw. Then I cut my one board to 4 pieces, one 18 inches long, one 7 inches long, and 2 at 4 inches long. I also cut the dowel into 2 pieces 9.5 inches long each. I drilled 2 holes in the 2x2 for the dowels. If you follow Shara's plan, she only drilled about 1/2 inch through each side, but I figured it would be just as easy to drill all the way through. Assembly was super simple. The coffee stand is just put together with some butt joints.
Did he just say what I thought he said?
And some wood glue and brad nails. I used a mallet to drive the dowels all the way through and then attached the 2x2. Originally, I tried to mount the 2x2 in the center of the space between the little box and the opposite edge, but that didn't leave enough room for the mugs to fit, so I removed 1/2 inch from the end of each of the dowels. I still wasn't satisfied with the distance, so I moved the whole 2x2 over about 1/2 inch, making sure that it still covered the old hole. After puttying the holes, I applied some boiled linseed oil for the finish, and the first coffee serving station is finished. For the second one, I'm using all scraps again, including a trim board that we removed from our 1926 home during some remodeling. I used a paint scraper to remove a majority of the paint, and then there was quite a bit of sanding, but I'll spare you from that part. Part of my adjustment to the original plans is to make the base bigger, so I cut the base to about 1 inch wider and 4 inches longer than the original. Then I used a cove bit on my router to add some handles to each end of the base. I also rounded all the corners and put a chamfer along the bottom edge. The original intent for this little shelf here is to set down your coffee pot or your teapot, but this soft pine is not something you want to set a hot object on. It'll burn the wood and it could be dangerous. And Shara even states in her plans that she advises you to put something here like a trivet or something to protect the wood. So my next upgrade to this design is to remedy that situation. I started by cutting some 1/2 inch wide dados that were 1/4 inch deep along the top of what will be the shelf piece. Then I went through my bucket of hardwood scraps and found a piece of walnut and cut it to 1/2 inch square strips. Glue would be plenty strong enough to hold these pieces in place, but since I have zero patience to wait for the glue to dry, I used my pin nailer on the underside of the shelf to hold the pieces in place so I could continue the assembly. All the nails were covered when I added the 2 side pieces. Before attaching the shelf to the base, I put a small chamfer on the edges of the shelf and then used my knife to clean up the inside corners. The rest of the assembly was exactly the same as the first coffee station. After some additional sanding and puttying, I used boiled linseed oil for the finish and then added some little rubber feet to the bottom to complete our second coffee serving station. Alright, our 2 coffee stations are finished. Let's go over a few of the details real quick. Let's start with this version right here, the basic version. Like I said before, this surface right here really isn't meant for anything hot. So if you build this version, make sure that you put something down here before you put anything hot up here, or you could just use it to carry the sugar, spoons and what have you. Now the area under here I used for coasters, but you can also use it for other things like you see over on this version. Now one thing that I did that I didn't mention in the video is that on the original one, this post is 12 inches, but on the upgraded one, I made the post 13 inches because none of my mugs would actually fit on the 12-inch one, because in my house, we like big mugs. I like big mugs, and I cannot lie. Now this version right here is meant to sit flat on the countertop or flat on a table. It's not meant to move around, whereas my version over here, I actually lifted it up with a couple little feet and put handles under here, which is really nice. The only downside to this is because the dowels are completely straight and they're nice and oiled up with this boiled linseed oil, the mugs have a tendency to want to slide when you're carrying it. So if you wanted to move this around, I would recommend only drilling about 1/2 inch in and maybe putting the dowels at somewhat of a little bit of an angle so that the mugs would actually slide inwards towards the post rather than having the chance of sliding off while you're trying to carry it. The biggest upgrade that I really like is turning this top shelf up here into an actual trivet by putting these pieces of walnut. Now you can use any other kind of hardwood. You could use a cherry or maybe a hickory or something like that up here, but it really makes a big difference. So I could actually take a hot pot of coffee or a pot of tea and put it up here without any worry of it leaving a burn mark or ruining the shelf up here. In the end, both versions are really useful and really nice. This one is a super simplistic version that you could leave on the countertop. It's just very modern and sleek. This version over here makes it really handy for you to serve coffee out on a coffee table, out on a back porch, or on your dinner table. Let me know in the comments below which one's your favorite and why. We work on a new video every week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you very much for watching. Be safe and have a great day.